Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes. Hey, this is Mike with the Quivercast, brought to you by quiverbuilder.com, an online community where you buy, sell, and surf for your next magic board. Good afternoon. This is Mike with the Quivercast, and today we got a special guest, Chaz Wickwire. Do I say your last name right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're here in his factory. What's the city of this?
We're in kind of the cusp of Carson, North Long Beach, and Compton.
Anyhow, how are you doing, Chaz?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me. This will be fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. Well, let's start in the beginning then. What got you into surfing?
So my dad and my mom had me when they were like 18 and 17 in Bellflower. And obviously there's a lot of pressure with being a parent that young in the early 60s. So they split up. My dad actually ended up getting me, which was super rare back then too. Usually the mom did. Mm-hmm. So we lived in Bellflower until I was about 6 or 7. And then my dad started dating his current wife, who lived in Seal Beach.
Okay.
So we moved in with her in Seal Beach, and I think that was like 1971. And I remembered like we lived maybe a half a block from the beach. I don't know. You're familiar with Seal Beach, like right off of Ocean Avenue.
Right.
In an apartment. So I was just like continually walking down to the beach and looking at the ocean. And
how old are you?
It's probably like 7.
Okay.
So probably when I turned about 8 or so, my neighbor had a surfboard for sale that my dad bought me for like $10.
Rad.
And we kind of lived on the south side of Seal, which wasn't super user friendly during that time frame. So a couple times he would drag us down to river and surf. And I remember the very first time this board was a chucked in. It was 710. It had been broken in half, and it was a late 60s transition, kind of longboard style, but short, but really heavy. But I remember dragging that thing across the beach at Crabs in Seal Beach, which it's a pretty good trek. Yeah. I remembered somehow paddling out and somehow getting turned around and paddling for this wave. And I got the wave, and I got to my feet, and I rode all the way to the beach, and that's pretty much all I've ever wanted to do since.
You're hooked.
Yeah. And then
did your dad surf?
No, zero surfing background. I think maybe, I don't know the whole logistics of getting that board, but maybe he saw my interest in just always being at the beach and looking at the ocean or whatever. But it was clearly a pretty significant purchase in my childhood. And then we ended up moving down to the other end of town on 2nd Street, which is a block from the river, which is a great beginner spot in Seal Beach. Used to be super consistent. So like I surfed a little bit before we moved there, but once we moved there, it was like summer before, I want to say 6th grade, maybe. I think I was 10, and it would be like wake up, drag the board down the beach, surf, eat breakfast, drag board back down, surf, eat lunch. Like it was just like 24/7 all summer long.
Yeah, right. What about in the winter? That winter?
Do
you have a wetsuit and stuff, or do you have to wait?
Yeah, I think like crude wetsuits. There's this place, this bait and tackle shop that used to Wilson wetsuits, which were just basically like they're like can openers. Like they would just like the worst suits for rashes you can imagine. And
were like diving suits or?
Kinda. They were like kind of a step up, I think, from like. But anyways, we surfed a little bit during the winter, but that summer before 6th grade was when it was just like...
You're a surfer.
It was on. Like cut across the wave for the first time and kind of reading the waves better. But that was like kind of the jump start. It's kind of been the same ever since.
So then, now let's jump from the progression of there into your teenage years. How was that? You just progression?
Yeah,
Stop,
yeah.
nonstop? You're just hooking surfing all the time,
I lived by the beach,
right?
and
Good access.
my house was kind of ground zero for the neighborhood kids that surfed. And we just like Jeff Wells, who's Chad Wells, industry guy's older brother. This guy Bruce Linnerud, who ended up being a farmer on the Big Island.
Oh, right.
I'm not sure what he grows, but I have a feeling of what he grew. And then who else? David Sowers was kind of in the scene a little bit.
Okay.
And then a bunch of kids that I went to junior high school with that were like, air quotes, surfers.
Right.
But not really surfers.
Okay.
But it was like me, Jeff Wells, and a couple guys from Long Beach, Matt Bettis, Gene Jimbrowski. We kind of had a solid crew that we kind of just evolved as surfers together.
Okay. So how did you treat the Long Beach guys? Are they the same? Or a little different? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, because we kind of learned together. Those guys, like we were.
So you guys all at the same time?
Yeah, we were bros, and
okay, cool.
We never really thought in those terms.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they were just friends. There wasn't really any weirdness with us because we were kind of all the same age, skill level, and just evolved together.
So then, were you surfing like north side at that point, or moving on?
At that point,
or were you like traveling to Surfside or Huntington or something?
Summertime was mostly river.
Okay.
Like
regardless if it's flat or not.
Yeah, we just go.
Okay.
Actually, we had this one guy, Rick Verga. I don't know. Do you remember Rick Verga?
No.
He's a longtime Seal Beach surfer, and he
I know who he is. Yeah.
He used to drag us to Huntington quite a bit. We'd meet at David Sowers' house at like 4 a.m, and he'd pick us up, and we'd paddle it. Yeah, we'd paddle out. But that was kind of the surf adventure. But mostly it was just in town. It wasn't like parents weren't involved dragging you all over the place like they do now. It was just like wherever you could surf, you surfed.
And how was your dad on surfing? Was he stoked on it?
He just really wasn't involved.
Okay.
It was kind of a different time. Like I remember walking to baseball practices alone with buddies, and
right.
I don't think my parents saw a surf contest until I was maybe in my mid to late 20s.
Okay. So let's talk about then you're progressing, you're surfing, now you're surfing good, right? Or decent. How would you
getting better. Getting better. Good. Like the guys that worked at Harbor kind of took a little bit of interest in me in junior high school.
Okay.
And made sure that I was kind of on the right surfboards, and there's some good mentors there. This guy Glenn Davis, who took my first custom order.
Oh, right.
Me and my dad for Christmas. This guy Dennis Ward, who was like just absolutely brilliant surfer, just brilliant. Couldn't surf his way out of a heat, but like just the most beautiful surfer. And he always had a special kind of eye on me to make sure that I
saw something special, maybe.
Yeah, he just one day
or you guys
says,
just clicked friends.
No, he came up to me and says, you kind of are getting this figured out. You just, if you have questions or whatever, keep me in mind, or I'll be there for you type of thing. And then another guy, Kurt Osberger, who was a shaper at Harbor at the time. All these guys were super good role models in a time really that was kind of gnarly, the late 70s.
Okay. Was it like, what do you mean gnarly?
Just, it was like psychedelic and drugs and like my dad, when he heard that I was kind of hanging and talking with Harbor, he's like, those guys are smoking dope in there. And I'm like, they're not smoking dope. He's like, if I catch you smoking dope, we're moving back to Bellflower. So I was like, well,
that's heavy.
I didn't smoke dope, and we never made it back to Bellflower. But it was pretty remarkable how awesome that shop was for the whole community. Just Rich Harbor, who's the owner and shaper. I mean, that was ground zero for Seal Beach surfing, and to a big extent Orange County surfing.
Yeah. From
like 59 until probably the early 80s. I mean,
what was your heyday of hanging out there?
I used to hang out there and buy skateboards when I was probably 12, 13, and ended up getting a job doing ding repair when I was 16, and he took me under his wing and trained me to shape. I was the shaper, when I was graduating from college. So
Oh, okay.
it was a pretty significant part of my life.
So did he mentor you? Harvey?
Oh yeah. Rich was he was like a father. He was a lot of the values that I have today, I think, have a lot to come from him.
Okay.
He was like, why don't you surf? Why don't you do this? And he's like, well, Chaz, you get my age and you get married and you have this warm body next to you and nice warm butt to squeeze against. And it's not really all that inviting to him anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't important to him.
Yeah, but he was awesome. He was a mad scientist, super intelligent, and really had a knack for picking good people.
Okay.
To be part of his program.
Right. So if he picked a bad seed, they're out of there, or what are you saying?
I'm not sure. I think maybe he had like a bad seed radar or something, because we didn't really have any people that came through and became part of the culture that got kind of kicked out. Like everyone was pretty on point, like their whole stint there. So
tell us how it was. More than that, like who were the guys showing up? Or who were getting boards from Rich? Or ordering boards through Harbor?
Everything back then was pretty geographical. Like the Seal guys bought Seal boards, the Huntington guys bought Huntington boards, Newport guys rode their Russells, I think. So like the inland community, like Norwalk, Long Beach, like a lot of those people would come through. Bellflower. Yeah. Actually, there was this guy, I don't recall his name, but he was a good surfer from Bellflower. He was like kind of part of the culture too. Okay. But it was just such a kind of a clubhouse dojo type of thing where
we guys hanging out like all day, like watching the surf movies and like the big Wednesday scene when they're in front of the bear shop, everyone's skateboarding, it's just groms all around.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit of that. I mean, a lot of times we were surfing or skating, and that would be kind of maybe the meeting place, or if there was no waves, we'd hang on a little bit. I mean, it wasn't encouraged really to be there, but we kind of hung on anyways, and like, why don't you vacuum the floor and I'll buy you a cheeseburger,
Okay.
That type.
So he was getting.
But this was labor. This was early on.
And you guys are having fun.
Yeah, this was early on, and this was kind of pre-videos and but yeah, it was kind of the place to go and be around the boards, and they actually built the boards in the back there, so it was pretty cool.
So then you got a job there, you moved on, and you finally got into the shaping, right?
Yeah, so I started out with a ding repair, and then I did a little stint behind the counter, kind of off and on through the whole thing. I did work behind the counter.
Which consists of what, like selling the clothes and the wax?
Yeah. Selling boards and...
Oh, boards, yeah.
And then, like, they were kind of a skate shop as much as a surf shop my freshman and sophomore year. I don't think I surfed one time my sophomore year. It was just...
Seriously?
Like skate. It was all skate. We had this...
Really?
We had this friend in Rossmar. She was a girl. She was cute. And she had about 500 cute friends, and somehow she talked her parents into emptying their swimming pool. So we would every day we were just like gather up quarters and get on the bus and ride to Rossmar and skate. And then a few of the guys that were a year older were involved with the Huntington High surf team. Okay. And they were having like a kind of a frost off meet, and they had talked about Chaz to the coach a lot, and he's like, well, have him come do this event. And I think I surfed the day before the contest, which was probably the first time I'd surfed in, I don't know, like 8 months. Like really crazy. It was the only part of my life since I started surfing that I wasn't a regular surfer. And I had fun with that. And then
how was that first day back? Do you remember?
It
was challenging?
Yeah, it felt weird. It felt like if you don't surf for a few weeks, it feels like you can do it, but it doesn't feel natural. Okay. And then I did the contest, and I completely bombed out. And I was just,
was this like NSSA or what?
No, it was just like a high school contest. Oh, okay. And I'm super competitive. Like my friends will tell you that I'm like just stupid competitive, and I was just so pissed
Frustrated.
Yeah, that like I couldn't do it and I didn't have success, and that was pretty much skateboarding was over. I was just like, I'm on a quest to
prove yourself
to do this. So the next fall, like I surfed all summer and got engaged in that, and then the tryouts for the Huntington High surf team, which
So you went to Huntington High.
Huntington High.
Okay.
Like we have tryouts on the weekends, and I won every heat.
Right.
And the coach is just like, okay, well,
You're on.
it's on. And then so did that, got quite a bit better. There wasn't really like training or coaching then, so we kind of all figured it out on our own a little bit. And then my senior year, it was myself and this guy Ron Quigley.
I've heard
who
of
was
him.
like, he was a brilliant surfer. He was a brilliant artist. Like anything he did, he was super brilliant. And it was kind of me and him. I had woodshop with the coach. So the coach said, I see you every day. Why don't you be the captain? And you can be like communicate to the team, outside of what's whatever. And I just remember like Ron won every heat. I won every heat. And we just like, I'm like, this may sound kind of weird, coach, but I kind of want to like have a heat with him.
Yeah.
Like to kind of see
who's the man?
who's the guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, yeah, the next contest isn't a super hard one, so I can throw you guys in a heat. And he smoked me. So I was like, I guess I was the captain. So like, that's all good. But further kind of like, you recognize that, well, I'm not at that level. I'm not prepared. What do I need to do? So then that kind of worked in to being way more involved with the shop.
Okay.
Wanting to be around the surfboards and gleaning any information I could get off the better surfers that were coming through or working at the shop.
Like board performance wise, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, just
or surfing. Your surfing wise.
My surfing and competing and like trying to figure it out. The competitive part.
Okay, gotcha.
So I was a late bloomer. Like there was no one in SEAL that had been like a pro surfer.
Okay.
There really wasn't anyone at that time that had been a pro surfer other than like MR and Bugs and the breaking down the door generation kind of crew. And they just like when I was graduating, they were just kind of taking over, I think, being part of the NSSA, or maybe it was a year later. But I started doing the open seasons a little bit when I graduated from college or from high school.
Okay. So you didn't start NSSA. When did NSSA start? So that's what you're saying now.
I think I finished my first full open season when I was 20.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was a bit late to the game.
Okay.
But like I said, there really wasn't a path.
Okay.
Like for the SEAL guys anyways.
Right.
Like maybe Huntington, there was maybe more structure and stuff. But, we got on the bus, went to high school, did the surf contests, came home to surf SEAL, and we rode our pintails on Southside. And
so none of the guys in Huntington High were friends with you? Like you didn't hang out there on the weekend?
Yeah, we were friends, and we went to parties and stuff. And like when the waves were super huge, they would come to SEAL. And, if the waves were super small, we would go to Huntington. But it wasn't like now I have all kinds of friends in Huntington that, I talk with in the parking lot. Like,
yeah,
it was more geographical back then.
Okay. So everyone kept to their local neighborhood, basically.
Yeah, but Rich saw my interest in the surfboards, Rich Harbor.
Okay.
So I'm going to set you up with this ding repair business. I'm teach you how to fix dings, and I'll give you 30% of whatever it costs, and it kind of all started from there. So I did that while I was competing, learned to airbrush. There's a pretty good glasser that worked in the back, this guy Tom Goff, who is like just crazy character, but he was a pretty good glasser, and he was pretty accommodating about letting people in, and he would kind of let us help with certain things. And so like between when I started doing the ding repair, which I was probably like, I had just gotten a car, so I was probably 16.
Okay.
And then kind of learning the glassing and stuff too. And then I did that through just beginning a very, very extensive junior high school career. I did a very big tour of most of, not junior high school, junior college.
Junior college, I got it.
Yeah, like every junior college in the neighborhood I took classes at. Wasn't super focused on school, super focused on surfing and the surfboards. So I built surfboards, basically. And then we had a couple guys start working at the shop that were Long Beach State students that I became super good friends with. We started surfing together a lot. And they got me super motivated to finish college.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I'm in college, surfing a lot, partying a lot, doing enough studies to do well. And Rich, who had been shaping most of the boards for most of my career at Harvard, like I think Card Osberger maybe shaped my first board, but after that it was pretty much all Rich.
Okay.
All the way until 86. And then he was starting to have some health issues arthritis-wise, and he saw that I had a little bit of talent with being crafty. So he proposed that he would train me to be the shaper.
Okay.
So this was probably the fall and winter of 86. So I spent 6 months just training, like learning the planer, learning the formulas on how to do stuff, the templates.
So you're just mowing foam?
Mowing foam and kind of doing a little bit of each step that he would kind of come back and finish up and make sure it was good. And then I was going to the North Shore for February. I used to go every February or winter break. And he said, well, when you get back, you're going to be a shaper. So shape yourself a couple boards for Hawaii and we'll look at them. We'll see how they go.
You're experimenting on yourself.
Yeah, and then when you get back, you're going to be the Harbor Surfboard Shaper.
Really? Okay. So you were the man at that point when you came back.
I don't know if I was the shaper.
The shaper. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, there was still mentoring going on and stuff, but yeah, I was building.
Was Rich checking your boards out?
Yeah. And I was building boards for the team.
And what was the feedback from the team? With the different shaper, because
I think it was pretty good.
Okay.
I mean, I took Rich. He was kind of a mad scientist, inventor guy. So, like, we would bring him ideas, and maybe it didn't always turn out how we thought. And I was kind of like the kingpin on a lot of the ups and downs. So,
discussing it with him, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or just
saying,
like
this is a failure, and this is a
this is what I like the feel of, or this blah blah blah. And,
okay.
So, like my first few years, when I went to the North Shore, I took some stuff that I thought looked pretty cool,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd get there and you'd see what other people are riding, and I was like almost kind of embarrassed to bring them out.
Really? Okay.
So I had like 3 or 4 years of that leading up to doing that last trip.
Okay.
So by the time that I got to it, I think we were a bit more conservative and mainstream on the design stuff.
All right.
But yeah, I was like the shaper. I was shaping boards for Tim Stamps, all the kids coming through at the time. Yeah.
So how did your boards work in Hawaii? I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but
The 6.4,
okay.
I made a 6.4, a 7.0, and a 7.6. And the 6.4 when
That's
it's
year in and year out?
that was that year, that first year. That
Okay,
was
for
I
sure.
built
Gotcha.
for that first year that I made boards for myself.
Okay.
And I caught 2 waves at Rockies, and the thing went absolutely nuts. I was just like, oh my God, this is so insane.
Yeah.
And then I duck dove on the way out, and I broke it. So then I had the 7.0,
Okay.
which was basically my shortboard now.
Yeah.
And it went good. It went super good. And the 7.6 never really got big, and I wasn't super keen on like the super huge stuff anyway. So the 7.0 is just kind of what I rode. But the 2 boards that I rode worked great. So I went home, felt super confident, made a short board when I got back, which was 87.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like did a 24-hour glass job on it. And Tim Stamps and I went to Huntington. It was like just typical, I think probably like Northside Huntington, maybe like kind of clean, but like, Huntington's kind of soft serve. And first wave, I got this left and just went nuts. I was just like, That was the best feeling. And it's kind of,
That your equipment worked?
yeah, it's like I made this and I'm a pretty good surfer and like this board feels insane. And I was so stoked on how it felt. So all I wanted to do was
You want to share that with everyone else?
totally, which was kind of my mindset through the whole thing. It's
Like you're going to make everyone surf better because it works. Is that the right thought?
maybe more, it's more like this was freaking awesome.
Okay.
And I'm surfing good. I want people to feel this. Not
Yes,
like I'm going to make great boards. I'm the man. It's just like I have this talent apparently.
Yeah.
And so it was never about money. It was just like if I could pay rent and
It was the joy.
have money to do whatever I wanted to do. You know, it was never like, oh, I'm going to make this into this huge business. And it was just like, this is awesome. I love to surf.
Mm-hmm.
I want to share this with my friends. And it's kind of been that way ever since.
Okay. And how many years now from first board shape till today? How many years is that?
Well, that was 87.
Okay.
And so it's like 35 years. 35 years I've been shaping boards.
Rad. And how many boards under your belt, you think? Take a guess if you don't know.
Well, we don't really shape boards anymore now. We finish boards. And I've probably finished, I've worked for every major label that's been anything. And I finish most of my stuff now too. I don't do much hand shaping. So probably, I don't know. I probably shaped 1,500 harbors and I probably hand shaped maybe 5,000 chowses before the machine came on. So, but I probably finished, I don't know, like 30,000. I don't know. I've had my hands on a lot of surfboards.
Yeah. Dude, that's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
So is there anything else about Harbor?
Yeah, well, yeah. Like Harbor was epic. Like my senior year of college, I was going to college to be a teacher. And working part-time, Harbor had a glass shop in the back, and somehow I just had wrangled everything to where I was shaping, glassing, hot coating, sanding, and a little bit of airbrushing. This is working part-time my senior year of college, and I made probably twice, maybe 2.5 times what I would have done the first year being a teacher, like graduating from college. So I graduated, and I said, I'm just going to do this and see how it works out.
Okay.
So Harbor is on Main Street,
right,
in Seal Beach, which has residential areas behind it. So we had shape room, we had a kind of we had the shape room, we had the glassing room, we had an airbrush room, and we had a kind of a burgeoning real estate boom going in Seal Beach behind us. So people were tearing down shacks and building
up,
which were I would say like, you know, maybe $300,000 homes back then. So this one guy built his house behind the harbor, and got super tired of smelling fumes.
Yeah, I see the writings on the wall there.
And he made this huge deal, and we tried to fight it, and we tried to glass when the wind was blowing the opposite direction, and whatever we could do. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
If that glass shop
But you guys were there way before he built that house.
Right. But he, spent his life savings, and he wants to raise his kids at not smelling resin fumes, which I get.
I get it too. But still, he knew it was there. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he knew it was there.
Oh, okay.
You know, like maybe you move there, and then all of a sudden you're eating breakfast, and you're like, what's that smell?
Okay.
Anyways, if that glass shop was still there, I would guess that I would probably still be there.
Okay.
So that essentially, I just graduated from college. That cut about half of my income away. Like I made shaping money, and then I made money from the glassing end. And that went away. And we tried to do a couple things where he set us up with a glass shop that gave us jobs, but it was in San Pedro, and I was used to riding my bike 2 blocks to work, not driving an hour over bridges through the harbor to get to work. So then I was kind of like, well, I'm pretty good at this, and I have this like the college surf club scene was huge. Like,
Okay.
we do the NSSA as
Right.
it was a club sport, but like you'd see everyone, and we had like we were like a fraternity on campus at Long Beach State that the fraternities hated because we were the most popular fraternity.
You guys are cooler than them.
So we had this huge network of surfers. So I had this network built in for clientele, and people were like, "Oh, you know, why don't you just make boards or blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Well, just get harbors, blah blah blah." And then finally got to the point where driving to San Pedro was just a nightmare. And it was getting kind of pulled to wanting to do something, and I am kind of competitive, and I have a bit of an ego. So I'm like, well, I think I'm going to try to do both. So, like, he was like a dad. He was
Right.
like, we've been close, and he was like coolest human on the planet. Anyone that's worked there would tell you it's just most awesome guy. So I kind of put a plan together, and then a buddy that started out as a guy that I traded golf lessons for a surfboard.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, kind of had the entrepreneurial spirit, and he was like, I'm going to, give you some money so you can get logos and do whatever you do, some blanks, and
To do your own thing.
you need to do this. This is like, you paid your dues. Let's do this. So I sat Rich down at Hennessy's on Main Street. And
Mm-hmm.
It's like gnarliest thing I ever did. Like telling the guy that basically handed over his craft to you that, I'm going to do this. I'm trying not to step on your toes. I kind of have a plan that we're going to do different stuff. And he was blown away. He was bummed, pissed, probably. But I mean, he sat it out and he said, okay, well, let's try to make it work. And then just the lines got foggier. And then it got to the point where he just was kind of the point where he says, well, I don't really need you anymore. So that kind of set me free. And it was a little bit of controversy, and it was kind of to a certain extent, it was different after that.
Yeah.
Like everything that was cool in Seal Beach, surfing wise, happened because of at Harbor.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got branched off a little bit. It was a bummer, but I mean, it was what it was. I wasn't the first person to leave. I mean, Robert August shaped there. Stamps eventually left there. There's been a lot of great people, but I think maybe my connection with him was
greater.
I'm not say greater, because he and Tim are just like, they're kindred spirits.
Okay.
But maybe it was like the first. It was almost like paternal, maybe. Like it was. I don't know. It was just, we had a pretty good bond, and maybe that was the first bond that he had like that. Most of, I think, his shapers were peers.
Oh, okay.
That came through, where I was kind of someone that he mentored.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. So anyways, that was the beginning of Chaz surfboards. And Chaz actually, like, people that think they know me, like from a long time ago, told me Charlie.
Okay, yeah.
Like guys that like.
I always call you Chaz, but I've heard Charlie.
Like people that come up to me, hey, Charlie, it's like, well, hey, how you doing? But like in the back of my mind, he's like, he doesn't really know me, I think. But anyways, Dennis Ward, this one guy, and this kind of goes into why Chaz is Chaz surfboards. I've had a huge evolution of names. My dad's name's Charles too.
Okay.
He hated Charles, so he went by Chick.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was Chick Wickwire. And then my mom wanted to name him after him. Mm-hmm. So I was Charles. Then my middle name's Vernon, which is named after, it's a Southern name. It's named after an uncle. My mom's side of the family comes from the South. So went to school, and I'm like, I don't want to be Vernon. First grade, I'm like, I'll be Charles.
You couldn't swallow that.
Yeah. So like my parents called me Vernon from like the day I was born. Some of my grandparents or like aunts and uncles still call me Vernon, which is fine. Like I grew up with it. So first grade, I go to, I don't know, is this too out there?
No, go. That's fascinating, actually.
So I'm Vernon, first grade. I'm like, I'm not Vernon, I'm Charles. So that, they put your little nameplates on your desk that you practice writing your name, and it was Charles. And then somehow that escalated into Charlie up until probably like, I don't know, junior high school. So I walk into the shop one day, and Dennis Ward's was looking for my number in the phone book. Remember phone books?
Yep.
How crazy is
White
that?
pages, yellow pages.
Yeah. So he was looking up for a number, and he's like, I found your dad's number. I was trying to ask him a question about this board or whatever that we're ordering, and I think it says Chaz. Like it was abbreviated for Charles. Chaz on the phone book.
Oh,
Chaz
okay.
Wickwire.
Oh, okay.
So he's like, I like Chaz.
Oh.
I'm like, I like Chaz too. And he's like, so from that day on, I was transitioning a really long time from Charlie to Chaz.
Oh, okay.
And then Chaz was the impotence for, like Rusty was Rusty.
Right.
I kind of like that first name thing.
Yeah.
So you go like, Chaz is cool. No, there's no Chaz surfboard. So
Yeah.
that's
awesome.
That's where it came from.
Made the logo, and then so you moved on to your own business.
Moved on to my own business.
And that was probably what year? You walked away.
89.
89, yeah. So in the 90s, you shipped a lot of boards.
Yeah.
North Orange County, at least.
Yeah, I was kind of big in the mid 90s.
Well, I remember, like, it was surfer or surfing. I don't know which one. And you may not recall this.
We did a little bit of both. Advertising.
No, I'm not talking about advertising. Well, maybe it had to do with it, but it said, like, it gave different regions throughout the world and who the shapers were, and your name was in there for Orange County or Southern California. Do you recall that?
Yeah, that was later on.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was doing a lot of business with this shop Moondoggies up in the San Luis Obispo and
and then
in Pismo
Beach. Yeah.
And so on that particular story, I got Central Coast and Orange County, which was kind of funny.
You own shit, like Chaz boards are everywhere, Pismo Pier.
Yeah, and I'm either famous or infamous.
Okay.
I've had, like, I was a bit of a butthole growing up. And I think I've evolved into a pretty good person, a lot of which had to do with that harbor deal, just values that were ingrained in you early on that took a little time to come out. But yeah, I could see, like, the Chaz thing, like, whoa, yeah, that's a Chaz, or fuck, that's a Chaz type of thing. Like, you could get both.
I mean, your boards were everywhere I went. I saw them.
No, we did a lot of advertising. Tried to build it up. I had this one guy who was like really good rep. He pioneered the whole Arnett sunglass line, and then he got some other lines. Tom Winchell, he's like greatest guy in the world, and I kind of screwed up some stuff on my end with him, and but he's like just way better of a friend than I should have ever had.
Oh, okay.
But he had a lot to do with growing us. I think at one point we maybe had like 15 dealers or something in the mid 90s.
Okay.
Like up and down the coast. So we were doing a lot of boards.
Okay. So you're just you were trying to really get out there. You did a great job.
Yeah,
and your boards worked. I mean, I have one board still. I couldn't ride it today. I'm too fat, but dude, this is the best board I ever had. I remember jumping on it. It was like north side of Huntington. I had the best time.
I hear that
magic board.
I hear that a lot, which is cool.
But for me being an average surfer, I was just so stoked on that thing.
Yeah, I totally farmed the 90s though. It was, like I said, it was never about money, so I think I undervalued what it was to a certain extent. So we were kind of as a business, we were always struggling because I was way more style the bros than let's take care of the paper type of thing.
That can get rough at home.
So I wish I wish I could
You gotta
have
pay
a
the bills.
little bit of my knowledge now and kind of another
For
shot.
business-wise, you mean?
Yeah, just, like, it was never about money, but it should have been a little more about money when we were really rolling.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're in here now. This is kind of like the third phase of my building career
Okay.
here, which is kind of being on the glassing end.
And how do you feel about that?
I like it. Like, my business was slightly less than solid going into when the Clark foam thing happened.
Okay.
And I got a little haired out by just the uncertainty, and there was a lot of issues with poor quality foam or even getting foam. So I had 4 kids at home, and I was trying to figure out, so how am I going to pull this off? What am I going to do? And my dad has a successful sales rep business in the aerospace industry.
Oh, okay.
And he was, he's not old, but he was definitely getting like in the golden years of his career. So I proposed, hey, how about if we give this a run and train me to do what you're doing, and I can kind of be a golden parachute for you. So I always had my hands a little bit on the surfboard shaping, just because I like to do it. And then I was trying to be this aerospace sales guy, and the culture was so far removed from what I was used to.
You were on surfer your whole life.
Yeah, and I jumped into a thing that was kind of politically charged on a level that I had never seen in my whole life. Like, kind of the early signs of this last year, how crazy politics, hearing things, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like,
so would you respond to their, whoever it is you're talking
no,
about?
I just kind of like, oh yeah, or laugh it off, or just like thinking to myself, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like a crazy liberal, and I'm not like a crazy right winger. I'm like a middle guy, I think. But this was like the culture was out of my comfort zone. So,
With that being said, what happened? You just weren't into it?
yeah, it just wasn't my cup of tea, and I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to give it a shot and
Cool.
learn more about probably being better at business. So I kind of took my tail between my legs and in the glass shop that I had been using to glass. Like, when Clark foam thing went down, like a year later, I shut my factory down.
Oh.
I had the factory over in Industry Way, which is like kind of a hub for Huntington,
In
Orange County.
Westminster?
Yeah. Like, everyone's over there. So I started doing fins for the guy, just trying to make things happen and trying to get my label going again. And we were doing glassing for Channel Islands,
Oh, okay.
like a ton of Channel Islands. So started out doing fins, and was like, oh, my laminator's kind of lagging, and I need these long boards, and can you do these? And I kind of morphed into this production glasser, which I'd never done before, it's gnarly work. So I appreciate everyone that does it. I mean, I kind of still do it to a certain extent. But I had, like, initially I had my glass shop, and like we did like 10 boards a week or 20 boards a week, and it was a couple day, and had a hot coater and a laminator, and like I knew everything.
Okay.
But I didn't, thought I knew everything. Like, my way's the highway, and this is the way we're going to do it, and blah, blah, blah. And then I got to this opportunity working for like seasoned big labels where you're doing volume. So I just learned how to be a really good laminator.
Okay.
I learned how to be like a really good sander. I learned like every facet of board building that's, like at a level that was much higher than I had ever thought possible. Cool. So it was kind of eye-opening as far as, instead of being the dogmatic guy that knows everything, I became like the student of the world mentality with, started shaping for bigger labels, learning techniques, and then got pretty good
at running the whole show.
Okay.
And then I have my business partner that I have now here. He said, well, he was a neighbor.
Okay.
And I built boards for him. And
So he's like, surfer, sure.
If you ever want to do anything together, let me know. He probably regrets it now, but I said, I'm not ready. And then one day the shit hit the wall and I said, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay.
So it kind of, there's always someone that's better than you.
Right.
But I became pretty darn good at doing a lot of production surfboards.
Okay.
So that's kind of like where you're in here now. We do glassing for Matt Biolis.
Yep.
He's our biggest customer. He's actually our only customer now because we kind of it worked out to the way where it made things super awesome.
Okay.
That it worked that way. I had another customer that was a pain in the ass, and then after COVID, things went so loony that Matt said, "Hey, can you help me ramp up?" And I said,
"Can you selling boards like crazy?
Can you help me stay alive when it's?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Oh, cool.
So I do my label here. I get to tinker with that, and then we do Matt stuff, and then I have a second label that we started that's kind of an alternative.
Oh, okay.
Like mid shapes, twin fins, kind of funky stuff,
Really?
funky
Okay.
glass jobs.
What's the name of that?
Charleston Holes and Foils.
Oh, okay.
Charleston Foils and Holes.
All right.
It's on Instagram. It's pretty cool.
We'll go. We'll ask for all your Instagram handles. That's rad.
Yeah.
How's the new business going with the mid links and stuff?
It's good. Like I put a lot of energy initially into developing a few designs that take kind of my background of performance surfing and making surfboards that look a little different, feel the way I want them to feel.
So did you kind of do it like go back to the beginning to start shaping boards and testing them out yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Yeah. So I can't remember the time frame. This COVID thing's been so nuts, but it was, I want to say kind of mid-COVID, maybe like 8 months ago. It's pretty funny. Tim Stamps and I throw stuff off each other all the time, and we joke about shit, and I'm pretty irreverent towards everything. And I'm like, I posted this photo on Instagram of this little mid-shape that I made this little girl.
Okay.
And I got like more private messages off of that board than any other board I've ever made.
Really?
So I told Tim, and Tim's like, dude, I couldn't make a living off of just high performance surfboards.
So he's been doing it for a while.
Well, he's crafty, and he's been doing it forever, and he's got his harbor background. I mean, everything he makes is beautiful and good. But I was joking. I'm like, all right, so maybe I should be a mid-length guy too. So I'm going to start Charleston Foils and Holes. One of my best friends growing up used to call me Charleston. So I was like, took that, and Foils and Holes sounds kind of hipster. I didn't want it to be off of Chaz, because Chaz has always been my baby, and it's always been about like performance surfboards.
Smart.
So yeah, I mean, I do a surf school, so I sell a lot.
Yeah.
I demo a lot in my surf school, and I sell a lot out of that. But it's fun. It's something different. But if the waves are good, I'm on a high performance shortboard.
Right. And so I'm seeing a lot of your video clips talking about that on Instagram and stuff. You're ripping still. Like ripping.
Yeah. Thanks. It's always been super, super important to me to have my surfing be relevant.
Okay.
Or
makes sense.
Being able to understand and maybe draw the lines that the good guys are drawing. I mean, you're not going to see me in the air because my knees would probably break off.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you grew up in a different era anyhow.
Yeah, but I've tried to transcend the eras. The eras. I've done an air in my teens.
All right.
I've done an air in my 20s. I've done an air in my 30s. I've done an air in my 40s. And I've done an air in my 50s.
Cool. So every generation?
So
or every decade, I guess.
I'll be 58 in May, so 3 more years if I could just maybe get one more
air in the 60s.
One more credit card. In this.
That's rad.
But anyways, it's always been important to me to have my surfing somewhat contemporary.
Yeah.
For personal reasons, and obviously for the surfboard building reasons and feel. I think like that initial experience of riding that board, the first one I described that I shaped, and the feeling that gave me, I'm addicted to that feeling. And
you still feel that feeling?
Yeah.
Not every day, but like on a magic wave, or every day do you feel that?
If I get a wave that stands up, I can feel it.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it's going to be a sad day when that feeling goes away.
Yeah.
But so far so good. I do a shitload of push-ups. I do a lot of training to try to keep.
That's what I need to do.
Try to keep in shape. It's important enough to me to where I don't do other things, so I can still enjoy that.
So you have this glassing, or whatever what would you call the business exactly?
It's a glass shop.
Okay, so
glassing house.
Okay.
We're manufacturing partner.
You're still shaping boards or getting boards shaped under your own label.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I do.
What about mostly poly boards? You doing epoxy?
I do poly boards. I ride epoxies almost exclusively.
Yeah.
I've been riding them for 12 years exclusively. We've done a few things to try to bridge the gap in feel between the poly, and I think we've been pretty successful at that. I've converted a lot of people that
we're adamant, like they're not going to try.
Even a guy this morning, like my glasser, Ryan Salazar, super good surfer, pool sweeper on Instagram.
I've seen that guy surf.
Super good surfer.
Yeah.
And we got him to where he would try it. And he's like, I don't know. And he'd go back and forth. And now he's pretty all in. So I surfed with this guy this morning, and the waves are like, it was pretty shitty actually.
Okay.
But,
I didn't miss nothing then.
There's a couple waves, like 2 that were okay. That, I came in thinking, okay, I'm still a surfer. But this guy, he was on one of Ryan's old boards. He's an older guy. And I'm like, hey, is that Ryan's board? And he's like, yeah, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, yeah, I've never had really luck with epoxies, but this thing's epoxy and it feels kind of...
Rad.
And I'm like, yeah, that's what we try to do.
Rad.
We try to bridge the gap because the epoxy has such a lively feel to me.
I love them.
And like all the pros ride epoxies in shitty waves.
Lighter.
Yeah, and they're just livelier. You push against it, it pushes back. If you can kind of figure out and commit to that feeling, like after a couple of weeks, you're like, oh. But it was awesome to hear him say that I haven't had any luck with these in the past, and this board feels really good.
I mean, yeah, I get that for sure because I love epoxy.
Like I'm like, people think I'm an idiot. Probably because I'm so into the epoxy. Like,
you're one of the rare guys. I've interviewed several shapers, and most of them are still pushing poly.
Polys are easy. Polys are easy to glass. They're easy to shape. They're easy to paint. Everything about them's easy. So anyone that has a stake in making polyurethane boards, on some level, in my opinion, is just trying to keep the gravy rolling. Because the epoxies they're trickier. They're trickier to build. They're trickier to get a forgiving feel on. So I had this one guy that worked at Harbor he moved to Maui. He's a pretty good glasser. He's got his glassing business. He's just like always commenting like, do you even try polys? Like, we're over here in Hawaii and no one likes epoxies, just like, because your waves are epic. You could drive an ironing board over there and like, you get a good clean wave at Honolulu. It doesn't matter what you're riding. It's going to feel freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, he kind of called me out, so I'm going to do my due diligence.
Okay.
So I made a couple of polyurethane boards, and I'm 58.
Right.
And I try to surf at a high level.
And you do.
And I pay attention to my surfing through watching it and seeing how boards look like they're performing and what they're doing in certain... So I made these 2 poly boards. I did one with an epoxy glass job on poly.
Okay.
And I did another one just straight poly.
Okay.
And we had a great swell. And I had some guy, I was fortunate enough to be out there to take some videos. And I'm like, it felt good. Like, it felt killer.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, that feels good, and blah, blah, blah. And then I looked at the videos. I'm like, who's that 60-year-old man?
So you can see the difference.
You could totally, like, the polys took they added 20 years to my surfing. And
Wow.
so it was,
That's
I mean,
almost scientific the way you did it with the video and
yeah.
you kind of compared.
So I think there's some merit to it, especially for average surf where you're trying to generate speed or you need to create drive.
Because most days are 2 to 3 foot.
Around here.
Realistically, yeah.
Yeah.
Where we live, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Like if you're on the North Shore, it's a different game.
Yeah, it still gets 2 to 3 though, too.
Southern California, 350 days a year, there's nothing better, in my estimation.
I agree.
My opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just a 58-year-old surfer that's too stubborn to give up on performance surfing.
You're still relevant, for sure. I think a lot of shapers, older shapers, probably don't surf or surf very much.
Most of the shapers that I know don't surf.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which I can't even wrap my head around.
Yeah, I don't understand that myself.
Yeah. It's always been an extension of the wave riding. It's never been...
Well, if you're not feeling the feeling, I don't know another way of putting it, how do you translate that to a board?
Well,
you've had past experiences probably 20 years ago. Not you.
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, which is why it's difficult for me to wrap my head around it too. How are you not out there? And and the argument to that is, well, I have team riders and I watch the video and they tell me and blah blah blah. But I'm my best critic, I think.
Makes sense, actually. What about any new shapers coming up that you know or you even want to mention their names?
I don't really pay attention.
Okay.
I'll say I try not to.
And you don't have to answer that if you don't want. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay attention to who's coming up. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Tim. We kind of learned together. Tim Stamps. I did a lot of work with the guys up in Channel Islands and learned a few things. But probably the most dramatic thing that ever happened was a finishing lesson that Matt Biolas gave me.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I always thought I was a pretty good designer. And maybe okay shaper. But I spent 45 minutes with him, and I'll never forget. He said, you may be a better shaper than me. You may be blah, blah, blah. You may be this. But here's the deal. If you do it the way I do it, it's going to turn out the way I want it to turn out.
Okay.
And it turns out that the techniques I went from being an okay finish guy to world-class finish guy in 45 minutes because of him.
Right.
So it was pretty cool. But that's probably the extent of, other than Rich showing me the fundamental stuffs of how to template and use the planer and stuff. The Biolas thing was the most dramatic change for my perception of myself as a builder.
Yeah, right. So how would you describe your surfing? And I know you surf good. So on a daily basis, I mean, are you more feeling for bigger waves? I've seen you on pretty decent size waves in South Side of Seal Beach and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a.
Are you still charging the South Side if it's busted?
Yeah, no, I'll surf South Side, but I don't have interest in
on North Shore or anything.
Nah, Rockies and small backdoor and stuff. I think I could do pretty well still, but maybe 6 to 8 foot sunset if it was comfortable.
Okay.
I'm just terrified of being held under.
The duck dive? Just getting the
Yeah. One of my first trips to the North Shore.
You have a good North Shore story. Let's hear it.
Yeah, here's my North Shore story, which ruined my big wave career. So I'm staying Brad Gerlach and Marty Thomas. You remember Marty Thomas? He was on the world tour, top 10 guy.
But he's originally from Seal Beach, right?
Yeah. So he would put us up. So it was Gerlach and Marty. We stayed together on the North Shore for probably a month, 5 weeks or something. So we're going everywhere, and we pull up to Haleiwa. And Gerlach's huge personality, right?
Right.
So, and he knows everyone. Everyone knows Gerlach. And some people love him and some people hate him. So the first experience is we see Dave Parmenter in the parking lot. Parmenter's it's shitty out there. This place is fucked. Blah, blah, blah. It's just, Gerlach's I'll change your attitude, man. It looks fun. We're out there. And so we paddle out, and not before we paddle out, Hans Hedeman comes in. Or he was a tour pro too.
I know it is.
So he's like, it's super fun, man. There's good waves, but there's crazy, crazy cleanup sets. So really keep your eyes open.
Wow.
So I'm already like it's probably like 8 to 10 foot.
Okay.
Hawaiian, like it's like
solid.
It's freaking bigger than I'm comfortable being out in. So we paddle out, and sure enough, we're in the channel, and Gerlach goes over. He's probably 20 feet ahead of me. And he just like starts just bolting. I'm like, oh shit. So he's like I said, 20 feet in front of me. So he gets like over the first one good, and I'm kind of like just barely get over the first one. I'm like, oh.
You know it's coming.
So the next one's bigger, and it's like, it's like the biggest wave I've ever seen in my life in person. It was freaking huge, like 15 foot, 30 foot face. Like,
oh my God.
Huge for me, like nothing compared to what the guys do now. But like, I'm an 18-year-old kid on the North Shore, like from Seal Beach, where, Seal Beach.
Yeah.
So Brad just barely makes it through it, but he makes it through it. And I'm like, just like deer in the headlight. I'm going up the face, and I try to punch through the top with my board, and I'm like, I feel myself getting sucked back. So I'm in the lip of this 15-foot wave at Haleiwa, hold my board, like my arms around it, go over the fall backwards, just like so freaking deep, like so far underwater, like still holding on my board. I'm like, there's no way I'm letting go of this board. So I feel like a pinball, like going, like the board's pulling me up, so I'm not really worried about that.
Okay.
But I'm deep. And it took so fucking long to get up.
Yeah.
So I finally come up, and I'm like pushed in, and I'm just like the most terrified I've ever been in my life in the ocean. So I just totally puke, like just like lost my shit.
Oh my God.
That's and I'm like,
gnarly.
So gnarly. But it was just terror. It's like, it wasn't rational. It was just like, I was just
the fear got you.
Oh my God, what am I going to do? And I made I should have just like at the base dropped through, but just totally farmed it, and kind of gathered myself, paddled back out, and I'm like, okay. And then I just like, everything kind of came back to me, and I'm like, dude, I'm over this.
That was it.
So I went ahead, and it was like 8-foot sunset. That's good.
Okay.
Anything.
So
bigger.
what's the best wave you've ever caught at North Shore? Do you have like one ride that like is in your memory bank? You'll never lose it?
It's mostly small wave memories at Rockies, like 6-foot Rockies, where you're just getting barreled. Surfing sunset, good waves where like the scale is like you take off on a north peak and it kind of hits the bowl on the west peak, and then just the scale of the wall in front of you is just that's memorable. I have one more North Shore story too.
Let's do it.
It's like 6-foot sunset. It's kind of chunky. Mm-hmm. Me and one of my buddies from Long Beach paddle out, and we're the only guys out. Totally cleans up, turns into like 6 to 8 foot, just dreamy waves, and then like coconut pipeline. Everyone, so you just see everyone's in the parking lot in the channel coming out, and it was Mark Fu and Ken Bradshaw.
Okay, the big wave guys.
But they were the surf stars kind of the era.
Yeah.
Like they were, and I caught this right and coming off the bottom, and I saw both of them just like double take on me.
Oh, really?
It was like, wow, that's
pretty
rad. I'm like this nobody, and they kind of like,
that's rad.
Kind of gave a nod to it. And it was like,
yeah, no, that's super cool.
Yeah.
So you felt like, what did you feel at that point?
I just felt like I could kind of do this.
Yeah. All right, everybody. This is Mike here at the Quivercast, and so I have Chaz Wickwire here that we recorded like maybe 8 weeks ago, and I kind of messed up. So we're getting the second half right now, and we're in Oceanside. Chaz just he had a good heat. He's surfing a contest for the
USA
or USA
US Championships.
Right on. How you feeling about the waves?
Waves look fun until you get out there, and then it's hard to find them. But it was fun.
I think the conditions probably get a little better.
Tide's coming up, so the later round should be good.
All right.
But it's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you. We're meeting over closer to my house now, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Last time we were at your warehouse or your factory.
Round 2.
Round two. All right. So we talked about your North Shore experience. We talked about the harbor days. So, well, today's not your perfect wave. What would be a perfect wave for Chaz?
A perfect wave for Chaz would be
Like a dream wave.
Like lowers left. That'd probably be the dream wave.
Okay.
Like the wave.
How big?
I don't know, a few feet overhead.
Okay.
Head high to a few feet overhead.
Middle tide, high tide, low tide.
Just
Just
lots of sections standing up on a left, and that's probably my wheelhouse.
Okay. All right. So another thing I saw on your Instagram, you just got back from Waco, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
Second trip to Waco. I got invited on a Lost deal, and it was a lot of surfing. I ended up getting 9 hours in the pool over about 28 hours period, and it was rad. It was just like lots of surfing, legs burning, but super fun.
Okay. Do you learn anything when you go to these wave pools?
Yeah, the pace of the wave runs quite a bit different than an ocean wave.
Okay.
Especially for the size. Like the pace of the wave moves fast, and the size of the wave isn't all that significant. So the transitions are super tight, and there's kind of a technical timing aspect of it that I didn't really learn the first time, and I really didn't even learn until probably my fourth or fifth hour. But after that, I kind of figured it out and was able to. There's kind of a column that moves across the wave that if you stay within it, it's like super forgiving, very much like surfing a good ocean wave. And if you get outside of that, you kind of bog and dig. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I built one board specifically for the pool, and I brought another board that I thought would have been ideal for the pool, and then I brought this funky winged pin kind of semi-fishy twin plus one setup, like twin fin with a small stabilizer. Fins push way back, and I rode the first board that I built for the pool the first session, and I was fresh off the plane and kind of had a shocker. And then I went back out that evening on the twin plus one just to do something completely different, and that board was just, it was nuts. I ended up riding that probably 5 hours the second day, and that was like ideal. So it was pretty interesting from a design point, going into it thinking, oh, well, maybe this will happen, and then just jumping on something that was totally non-specific, and it just ended up being absolutely magic.
Okay, so I just had a question come to mind. How many shapers have as much time in the pool as you, do you think? Probably not too many. Are you going to shape a board if someone comes to you and they're like, dude, I'm going to Waco, here's what I need? Are you going to change it?
Oh, yeah. Like I would
So with your experience, you're one of the top guys then.
I'm sure lots of shapers have spent lots of time there.
Okay.
I think I might have an edge like on the technical ability maybe.
Okay.
Like Biolis has surfed the pool, like probably the Waco pool as much as anyone.
Okay.
And
which is how many hours is he putting in? So how many hours do you have total? You have 9 hours that trip?
9 hours. I got 10 hours in the pool.
Okay.
But he's spent the whole week there. I was there for like 2 days.
Gotcha.
He's spent a week with his team there. He's spent, but he's the only person that I know of.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can't speak for anyone else, but I can say that my 10 hours were pretty educational, especially as far as design for the pool specifically.
Okay.
And Stamps has got a lot of time. Tim Stamp Surfboards, he's got a lot of time in the pool, the Kelly Slater pool.
Mm-hmm.
And they're different, but I think there's kind of similarities. The pace of the wave, most of all, and the transitions seem to be tight as well. So we go back and forth a lot, and he's like got a shitload of experience, like probably more than any shaper on the planet in that pool.
Really?
So yeah, it's cool to have like throwing ideas off of Matt, throwing ideas off of Stamps, and then going there and then just completely trying something that was totally different that worked incredibly well. So
would it be smart for like a guy like me, a normal surfer, to come see you or one of those other two guys and tell them, hey, I'm going to Waco. Do you want a board specifically shaped for the pool?
yeah, I think so.
Is your surfing experience going to be better?
The fin configuration, I think,
that's
is
where it's
the hugest difference.
Okay.
The drive that you get off of the larger twin fins, and then the fins were pushed way back, so it's got a very drivey, firm feel, which I think equates well to getting up into the lip and getting projection out of the lip.
Okay.
So yeah, it was awesome that I got included on that lost trip.
Right.
But it was like even more awesome to just from the design standpoint, figuring stuff out, having success.
All right. So next time you go back, you gonna shape another board?
Yeah, no, I definitely have some ideas.
Okay.
The board that worked really well had kind of a fuller outline. It was kind of like a hybrid-y twin pin kind of thing that a lot of people are doing, but a little shorter. And what I would do is I'd probably do kind of a step-down style, high-performance shortboard, but do the same configuration, fin configuration that I did on that little fishy twin plus one round pin. And I think the fins, like, that's the hugest thing in the pool.
Right.
Like, if you get the curves to fit, it's awesome, but you need kind of the fin configuration that's going to give you the most pop, drive, built-in speed
Right on.
to surf it well. Like, Waco's, like, super easy to surf. I encourage everyone to go, but it's not super easy to surf well. And it took me probably 5 hours to kind of go to a different level in the pool.
So my dream is that I'm going to go there probably the next year. So I should go to a board specifically shaped. It's going to be more fun for me.
Yeah, I would think so.
Less struggle.
Yeah, I mean, people ride.
How about just getting into the wave? Is there any
the
difference?
paddling element's almost non-existent.
Okay.
The geometry is kind of a little weird compared to an ocean wave, as far as like the angle of takeoff, and it's kind of counterintuitive when you look at it. But once you kind of figure it out, it's super easy entry. There's a rip that runs along the wall to get back. So like the only
just
thing
pushed out there.
Yeah, like you could not surf for a year and be fine.
Really?
And the paddling part.
Yeah.
But if you put more than 3 or 4 hours in, your legs feel like you snowboarded for a week.
And that was the other question. 9 hours in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I couldn't
you
walk
super
the next
sore?
day. Couldn't walk the next day. Felt like jelly 3 days later, but worth every second.
So what could you do to improve that so your body's ready for it? If you're going to surf that much then. Is there anything you can do?
I don't think
Or you got to just do it over a period of time, just get healthy?
There's nothing that you can do to prepare for 7 hours at Waco in one day.
That's crazy.
But it was fun. Ibuprofen. Like a lot of ibuprofen. That was my secret. Yoga pills.
The icy hot?
No icy hot, just ibuprofen to keep things rolling.
Start off with that before you paddle out?
Sadly, no.
No.
But as the day progressed, the doses became larger.
Got it. All right. Rad. Okay. I learned a lot actually from that, so thanks for that.
Yeah.
Social media. What's your take on social media? I know you use it.
Yeah, no, I love social media. Social media is like the great equalizer where I can play on the same playing field with all the bigger brands, get my message out in a super inexpensive way, like actually, I mean, free other than your phone bill.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. Communicate every day. It's very demographic specific. You know, your audience is exactly who you want to talk to. So yeah, I love it.
So how many accounts do you have? You have several, right?
Yeah, I got to.
You want to?
I have way too.
Tell them out.
My wife says that I'm a simple man with many Instagrams. Yeah, I have one for my surf school.
All right.
I have one for my glass shop. I have one for my surfboard company, Chow Surfboards, at Chow Surfboards.
Okay.
I have a personal account, Chowsiker.
Okay.
And I think
You had one more account.
Oh yeah. No, I got my new Charleston.
Yes, that's it.
Hulls and Foils, my kind of alternative surfboard brand, Instagram. So yeah, I have a lot of Instagram. So I believe pretty strongly in the social media.
What are you mostly focusing on that? What about the other Facebook or Twitter, any of that nonsense? My opinion on something. Go ahead.
I do Facebook just because it makes me feel smart.
Okay. Now, do you treat these accounts different?
Facebook, I just like post stuff when I get pissed, or post stuff of my family when I'm proud, and just staying in touch with people that you don't really see on the other accounts in the same way.
Okay.
But yeah, and then Instagram. Those are the only two that I really.
How much time are you putting in on Instagram? Because you have so many accounts. Is it a quick shot?
Most of my focus is on the Chaz surfboards because that's kind of my focus in life anyways. Mm-hmm. Going into summer, I'll gear up on the surf school, just, showing what the kids are doing and what we do, and try to keep the ball rolling there. And then I spent a little time on the alternative surfboard design. I kind of came in hot on that one. But my focus is high performance surfboards. That's always been my passion. So that's kind of where all of my energy goes as far as, I do love the alternative designs. I ride mid-lakes. I ride everything that I post on there just to make sure they perform the way that I want them to perform. But that would be like a secondary type of thing.
Okay. So actually, what's the period of calendar? What's the calendar for your surf school? When do you guys start that? Isn't that coming up soon?
I do coaching like with
year round
for like high school surf team type of things. I got a couple pretty gifted kids that I work with. And then I do an intermediate thing in the fall on the weekends.
Okay.
But the lion's share of the energy into the surf school is summertime.
All right.
Like we start a week from last Monday. So we start June 21st and we'll do 8 weeks of surf camps.
Okay.
We have like weekly camps where people show up for the week. And then we also offer a package to where you pay for a certain amount of money and then you get to come every day for the whole summer. Which is kind of the lion's share of the business. We probably...
It's like more like a day camp? Where they get to surf all day kind of thing?
It's like 9 to 1.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's in the river in Seal Beach, which is an awesome, super fun wave when it's decent. Mm-hmm. And it's a great beginner wave all summer long. As long as there's a little bit of south swell, it's surfable. So we have kids that come, almost every day for those 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's rad.
They go from wave storms to riding high performance surfboards at the end.
So you see the difference in the 8 weeks. Huge difference, huh?
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been doing it for 21 years, so we have a pretty good program. And we have pretty good technique from bridging the gap from just foamies in the foam to transitioning to a mid-length surfboard, hardboard, and then to finally transitioning to shortboards.
Okay.
But yeah, it's
how many of those guys do you see like later, 20 years later? You see some of those guys still in the water?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's gotta be cool.
Yeah, I would say we probably have maybe a dozen kids that become very proficient, hardcore, lifelong surfers every summer.
Rad.
And we have fair weather surfers that do it the rest of their life. But yeah, it's super. It's the most fun thing that I do.
Okay.
It's rad. Seeing someone see surfing.
You see the growth in them, and
you get to see what surfing was to you initially through a couple hundred new sets of eyes every summer.
Yeah, I think maybe they wouldn't have the opportunity if they didn't have your camp, like to go to the beach, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes and no. Okay. We try to make surfers. We try to teach etiquette. We try to make them good citizens in the lineup, and obviously try to get the most out of their skill set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. What about anybody else in your family surf?
Yeah. Okay. Everyone has surfed.
Okay.
My second daughter was probably actually my two oldest daughters were the most avid surfers. One of them lives in Washington State now, so she doesn't have the access that she used to. Yeah. And then my second oldest daughter ran the surf school for 3 or 4 years managing it.
Oh, cool.
And she was a pretty avid surfer growing up and all through that period. And she's pretty recreational. My son, he's an accomplished surfer. He was like the West Coast U12 champion growing up, and he was pretty good competitor. He's a brilliant tube rider.
I've seen some footage of him on Southside.
Yeah.
Pretty sick. Pretty good.
Not last year. Last year kind of sucked, but the year before, he was arguably the best guy out there.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool because back in the late 80s, I kind of was one of the kingpins as well. So to have him experience that wave at that level after kind of experiencing something similar, it's pretty special. I mean, you're familiar with Seal Beach and the culture and how we hand tradition down, and so it was super rewarding. But yeah, he's still surfs regularly. He's a great surfer.
You guys paddling out Southside together?
We have, yeah.
Okay. Recently? Yeah. I mean,
a couple of years ago. He gives me shit when I don't go on the waves.
Is he talking smack?
Yeah, he's just
what kids do.
I pick my battles now. Like if everything's perfect, I'll go on anything. But if it's not perfect, I won't go. And he kind of raises his eyebrows, like, you should have gone on that. I'm like, wait till you're 58 surfing out here.
Yeah, you're charged at 58. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, still making heats like nothing.
Hardly, not today. It was a squeaker today, but there's a couple heats left.
Wonky. Yeah. You got the whole day still. And then what about the localism back in the day? How'd you was there, and how'd you feel about it?
I think localism's pretty stupid.
Okay.
I grew up in I guess what you would call a semi-localized beach, but I was a part of it, so I didn't really. I mean, I wasn't a part of it. I guess I was a part of it, but I was just part of the culture.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was aware that like this is good or bad. It's just kind of what it was growing.
It is what it is.
What it was growing up. And then the other place that I surf is like really localized, or was. Now it's like fake locals. But like when I was a kid, we would go to this beach that was south of where I grew up, and we'd ride our bikes across the bridges. For whatever reason, the people generally tolerated me. They liked me. I mean, I guess I was a decent surfer, and I respected the good surfers there. But we would ride our bikes, like 4 or 5 of us, and we'd park our bikes on the beach, and we'd come back, and everyone's tire was let out except for mine for whatever reason. Wow. So
good for you.
I was blessed, I guess. But stories of like guys getting hit over the head with a 2x4 and fins broken out, and like Seal was never to that level. It was just
or heckling maybe, or what?
Yeah, it was just like we all surfed the pier, and it was a pretty tight lineup, like right next to the pier. And if you were the first best surfer, you got the first best wave. If you were the second best surfer, you got the second best. And if you were 35th, you got the 35th. But you were working your ass off to try to climb the ladder.
Yeah. Which did you think made you guys better surfers?
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Totally. Yeah. Like no one was allowed to be in the pecking order unless you were part of the pecking order. So like you couldn't be an outsider and surf our peak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could, but you would never get a wave. Just so. But then, I was an angry. I mean, no one's going to argue that I was probably a bit of a dick as a teen, probably early 20s, probably early 30s. But we started the surf school, and all of a sudden, like I mentioned before, you start seeing surfing in a light that you initially started seeing surfing, and then just all the bullshit becomes bullshit. Like, I mean, I don't like a guy that just took a surf lesson, that buys a 10-foot soft top from Costco and paddles out and thinking he's going to get sets and be oblivious to the whole culture of what a lineup is.
And dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous. And normally the lineup will take care of itself in that situation.
Yeah.
But everyone's got a right to paddle out and try to get a wave, and as long as you're safe and somewhat courteous. I mean, to try to deny someone that is, I mean, I'm an old man now, so maybe I'm soft, but
You've had years of perspective now.
yeah, it's, chasing people out just because you think that you own the wave or you think that you're entitled to the wave or, that's a bunch of crap, in my opinion.
Okay. You don't think there's some, well, I don't know. I won't ask you that. All right.
Go ahead, ask me.
Well, you don't think there's some spots that cause for localism, possibly? And I'm not saying where you're from.
Yeah,
For protection wise, or
I mean, for me,
because right now is so many, and I'm not saying I agree. I'm asking a question. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. It's getting overrun with people that have no clue what's going on.
to me, now a local is a regular.
Right.
And a regular is someone that shows up into a lineup that's familiar with the lineup, first of all.
Yeah.
Familiar with the people in the lineup, and is courteous to everyone in the lineup. I don't like the term local because local's bullshit.
So local was when you rode your bike to the beach and you lived down the street. That's a true local.
I don't like the term. I think regular.
All right.
Like I surf lowers a lot.
Yeah.
Which is the most crowded lineup on the planet.
Probably.
And I sit out the back and I chat with people and I let sets go and I wait my turn, and I've done it enough to where the regulars there appreciate that. So they kind of have taken me into their group to a certain extent, which, allows you to get waves that I would have never dreamed of getting when I was like in my 20s or teens.
Okay.
I surf Huntington Pier a lot, mostly on the north side, and it's kind of the same thing. It's people that you see on a daily basis, and everyone kind of respects everyone for being there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like, which way are you going? Which way are you going? I'll go left. I'll go right. Everyone kind of coexists. And then I live in a spot that you virtually surf by yourself, and everyone's eggy. So, and everyone's eggy because they think they're entitled to this wave, or they deserve it more because. So, it's just kind of weird. Surfing's fun. If you're respectful, you put your time in a lineup. There's no reason why you shouldn't be included in the lineup. And like tight lineups where there's not a whole lot of waves, the lineup's going to take care of itself. Like if you're in tune and you know everybody, you're going to do a rotation, and if you just kind of barge into it, people are going to recognize you're barging into it, and you're probably going to get either regulated or shunned or both, which I don't really have a problem with, because if you're going into it belligerently in the first place, it's just, if you go into a box seat at Dodger Stadium belligerent, people are going to raise their eyebrows and go, dude, what's up?
Yeah.
So I like the term regular. I don't like the term localism, and I think people that think that they own a particular spot they're the problem as much as the stormtroopers that come out with their wave tops. I mean, they're equally idiotic in my perception based on my 50 plus years of surfing.
Yeah, it's a long time. That's a good question. I think surfers are surfing later on in age now. With 50 years plus experience, there's not that many guys who can say that.
There's more than you think.
There is, I guess.
There's a lot more than
in
you
this
think.
Generation, this age.
But I would say that we're probably the first generation that kept a level that, I'm not going to say that we surf contemporary, but I think we're the first generation that kept a high level of technical surfing merit this late into life.
Okay.
And I think
why do you think that is? Board design?
I think it's probably surfboards a lot. I think it's lifestyle probably a lot. I think our culture, we tend to take better care of ourselves.
Okay. And then what about when you were a kid, when you were the 8, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, how many guys your age were out there then that you are today, your age today? Do you remember any?
That I surfed with regularly that still surf with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a network of friends from Huntington High, from Seal Beach growing up.
Yeah, okay.
Like the contest stuff.
Yeah, I'm talking about those guys. Okay, but when you were a Grom, was there a 50-year-old out there surfing then, regularly? And surfing, you already said they.
There was no one over 30 probably surfing at a high level when I was a kid.
Okay.
Maybe
the weekend
that I recall.
Okay.
That I recall. There was like when I was 25, I thought that, well, I'm going to get married. I'm going to be on a fun shape, and that's going to be it.
Okay.
If you would have told me that I would be 58 riding a 30-liter 510 successfully,
surfing heats.
Yeah, I would have said, praise God if that's the case. and here it is. So, yeah, it's been a very, very fortunate run.
Right on. And then let's talk about contests and the board riders and surfing contests like, the U.S.
Yeah, the U.S. Championships is a fluke, and it's all because of COVID.
Okay.
Normally you have to do like 7 or 8 events, which to qualify for the regional championship, which qualifies you to this event, which is a huge time commitment. It's surfing a lot of really shitty waves. And it's kind of fun, but it's not fun enough to like commit to 9 weekends to do one event. Where this year, because of COVID, they weren't able to run the regional stuff, so they just made the event open. And I like to compete against my friends that are my age and compete for national titles. And so this was an open event, and I, on a whim, entered it. So
you got any national titles now? What's your past records like?
Yeah, I got like 4 age group national titles. I probably got 4 or 5 runner-up titles. For whatever reason, I have this need to be quantified with my surfing.
It doesn't hurt the business-wise either.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the people that you see at the contests are the same people you see, and they have connection with boards, or they ride your boards, or whatever.
Okay.
And
then what about board riders? Whole different entity, whole different animal?
Yeah, the board riders is kind of in my eyes, it's a model kind of after what beach communities were when I was growing up, that it was you're passing on knowledge, trying to enhance the surfing experience and ability of the generation below you. And there's a bit of a gap in that in our community, especially in Seal Beach.
Okay.
Which kind of fixed that. Like now, like we went to Waco last October, and it was, it was anyone from 12-year-olds to old farts like me.
Okay, so you guys won as board riders.
Yeah.
Seal Beach board riders.
And,
right,
everyone's cheering each other on, and everyone's learning from each other, and there was a bonding. So, like, you go out into the lineup, and you're not like, who's this fucking little grommet getting in my way every time? And the little grommet's like, who's this freaking old carp that wants every wave? Now we're like, oh, hey, which way are you going? Which makes the lineup much more enjoyable. So it's been awesome, and the competitive part's super fun. I've always liked to compete. So you get quantified, which is a good test, I think, for the work that you put into the equipment, the work that you put into your fitness, the work that you put into your technique. It's a very tangible thing. It's like you got a decent wave, you got a 9, things are going the way that you kind of want them to go.
Okay. All right. And then, do you see that? Are you ever going to stop competing? You think you're going to go forever?
I would say
till the wheels fall off, or what?
I would say that if I'm successful today here, this will probably be my last event.
Really?
Of this kind of thing, like heats.
Yeah.
I'll compete in the club stuff as long as they'll let me.
Okay. All right.
But just the commitment at this point in my life to commit to all those weekends, trying to qualify and
driving up and down the coast, surfing crappy waves.
And then like I'm watching pretty decent 3 to 4 foot combo surf now, which is pretty ideal for competing.
Yeah.
But this is not the norm.
No. Yeah, so I mean,
putting in 8 weekends, doing your regional contests, and then showing up at Southwind, low tide, 1 to 2 foot Oceanside. Mm-hmm. It's not much of a prize.
Yeah, it doesn't equal what you're putting into it. I got you.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Any final words from Chaz?
I'm just feel super blessed that I'm a part of this culture, that I'm able to put a roof over all my kids' head and kept them fed, doing something that I love. I've never really ever gone to work regretting going to work. Super thankful for all the people in my journey, like guys that I competed with, crew at Harbor Surfboards when I was a kid that taught me what surfing is supposed to be, learning to build surfboards from Rich Harbor and the crew there, all the people that have worked with me, for me, alongside me with my glassing career, all the people that have rode my boards, paid. One guy told me this story where he was a kid at Westminster High School and he used to pinch money off of his lunch money every day so he could afford to get a surfboard at the end of the year from me. My shop at the time was in Westminster. So like all the customers, everyone that's worked with me in my surf school, all the people that participated in the surf school, it's been a freaking amazing life. And I'm very grateful to have had it and continue to have it. And all the people along the journey that have made it possible or shown me the right path when maybe the right path wasn't being followed. That's about it. Just very grateful, very thankful. I love surfing and I get to still do it 355 days a year pretty much.
Yeah. Round.
It's been a good run.
Right on. Well, thank you so much. And sorry about the mishap we had. But,
no worries. It's nice to, this is way better than my office. sitting under this cabana on the beach watching
glassing off a little too.
Pretty fun waves and getting to visit with you a little bit.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for doing the interview.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, Chaz. And everyone, we'll see you later. Adios. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this week. If you liked the episode, hit subscribe, give us 5 stars, or leave a review. Like us on Instagram, quiver_cast. Music brought to you by Barry Snyder, Punk Rock Grandpa. You guys all have a good week, and I'll see you in the lineup. Hey, you guys, Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic, numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip from the original print. You will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production, all hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.